You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. We got a great show planned for you today. Lots to talk about. There's no shortage of news going on locally and worldwide. There's, we live in an interesting world. We're going to try to make sense of it today with our discussion that we have today. We have each and every weekday morning between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. We have it live on radio on CKLU 96.7 FM and streaming live online at cklu.ca. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can listen to us by streaming us. You can also download it, take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We're also live streaming at Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe to the channel and the page. We're also found on demand after the show at Twitter.com/Sudbury News and Sudbury.news, which is our local news aggregator. All the local news aggregates into one website. So it's a service that we offer to the community and the news organizations here locally, the Sudbury Star, CBC, Sudbury.com, and CTV Northern Ontario. It's great to be with you today on this Wednesday, October the 2nd, Rosh Hashanah, if I pronounce that correctly. Interesting stuff going on in the Jewish calendar. It's the Jewish New Year. And there's a lot to do with the Jewish calendar going on in the world, which also spills on over to Christian prophecy, if you will, so Old Testament or Torah, and New Testament, also Scripture, Book of Mormon. There's all kinds of parallel scriptures. Today the trumpet shall sound, if they will. There's a ring of fire eclipse going on at the same time. So nothing to be alarmed about. It's just a possible prediction of certain events that are transpiring in our world if you are somebody who's interested in that type of thing. So there's that. And then there's all the regular stuff that's going on, which is pretty interesting. We had a vice presidential debate last night, part of the U.S. presidential election coming up. I believe it's November 3rd. So we're pretty much a month away from that. There's the port strike that's going on in the United States, which is definitely going to already has impacted our supply chain, which seems like there's all kinds of things going on out there that are affecting our supply chain of goods and services, mainly goods, for North America. One of the ports affected, I believe, is New Brunswick in Canada. So all the East Coast ports, there's that. There's the hurricane that basically decimated communities, just wiped them off the map, coming up north of Florida, Georgia, North Carolina type of thing. North Carolina being hit pretty hard. So communities just wiped off the face of the map. There's, So today we'll talk about some local things going on from, there's lots going on. We're still kind of discussing truth and reconciliation. It seems like even though we had it on a day, and I'm glad to see people are still, supporting it by wearing their orange shirts, or it's being spoken about in the news. So that's great. I was always wondering why we only had one day when other particular movements or causes, get a month and a week and a year, things like that, right? So I'm glad to see that we're still talking about truth and reconciliation, something that's very important. Lots of stuff. Anyways, we'll dive right in. We want to get to your comments, so make sure to comment. We'll do our best to read them for those listening on the radio or streaming online at cklu.ca, and get them up on the screen for those watching on Facebook and YouTube. So stick with us. It's going to be a great show. This is your conversation on your station. Sudbury's only campus and community radio station, been around since 1984. So if you are at cklu.ca, just make sure to take a second to check out our merch that we have available to help support the station. And if you're able to if you already got the merch or you don't really need it and you have the means, make sure to drop a donation. Just hit the donation button, and we appreciate your support. This is entirely your station, and you're the ones that keep it going. If you believe in having a voice in our community, that's definitely something that you can get behind. And you can also volunteer here. So all you got to do is drop a line to Rob at gm@cklu.ca. So gm@cklu.ca. You just say, hey, Rob, I got an idea for a show. If that's something that you want to do, it could also double as a podcast. Then you could also, if that's not your cup of tea and you have some computer skills, or you've been maybe had some experience in radio before in any way, shape, or form, maybe there's something that you can do to volunteer. So we appreciate anything you can do, and we're all working together to make this happen. Sudbury Wolves can be found on CKLU. We are the home of the Sudbury Wolves on the radio. So that's something that we're very proud of. We do a really great job. We have a really great team that's around that. And so then anyways, let's just dive right in to the show. We'll begin with a little bit of weather. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Currently it's 3 degrees out there. It's mainly clear. However, and today we can expect it to be sunny. Fog patches dissipating in the morning. Wind will be moderate. High of 15. UV index is 4 or moderate. Tonight, clear. Moderate wind again. And low of 7. Thursday, sunny. Mix of sun and cloud in the morning, high of 18. UV index will stay at 4 or moderate. So tomorrow again, mix of sun and cloud, high of 18. Friday, mix of sun and cloud, high of 19. Sunny and 17 on Saturday. So this is looking far greater than a couple days ago when every day had either clouds or rain. And now Sunday, though, we're forecasting some showers, high of 15. Monday, 40% chance of showers, high of 10. Tuesday, mix of sun and cloud, high of 12. Look at your satellite, which is a little more recent than usual. Hey, it looks like tons of clouds, but I guess we're just going to have clearing in northern and central Ontario. But you'd never know it by the look of the satellite image, which basically is full of clouds and precipitation activity. But you do see a pocket of clearing over northern Ontario. So that is your Sudbury weather. It's brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments. Looks like there's a few people already on and checking in, so we'll check in with you right after this. Okay, thanks for sticking around. That was your weather. And we'll dive right in. Looks like a lot of us are chiming in already this morning. Pretty chatty. Nana's joining us on YouTube. Good morning. to myself and friends, thank you very much. Blessings to everyone. Good morning to you, Nana, as well. Richard on YouTube, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Richard. Thanks for joining us. Judy on Facebook, good morning. And Marianne from Barrie, good morning, everyone. And liked and shared as usual. And Belinda, good morning. And a positive statement of the day. Free thinkers will always seem crazy to those who don't take time to research. Never apologize for evolving past people's comfort zones. For sure. Inquiring minds want to know, right? What else? Do we want to just be satisfied with what other people tell you? There comes a point in life where you got to figure things out for yourself. You got to put on your big adult pants and figure things out and know things for yourself. And if you don't know something, it's easy to say, I don't know that. You don't have to make things up. You don't have to fill in the blanks if there's, if you don't really know something, and seek it out. Like, what the heck? What's wrong with that, right? So free thinkers will always seem crazy to those who don't take time to research. For sure, because they're just taking whatever's being told to them, and they're just accepting it, Blind faith. And oftentimes people will talk about people who are religious as having blind faith. But I think the secularized world is more guilty of blind faith than even people in religion, if you want to use those terminologies of blind faith. And you need to research yourself and know for yourself certain things. So, Pat, good morning to you as well. And thanks for that, Belinda, by the way. And thanks for joining us, Pat. And Trevor, thanks for being on with the awesome emojis there. I picture a time when we're just going to speak in emojis, like we're going back to hieroglyphs or whatever. We're just going to have symbols, which I think language is symbols anyways, right? Like letters are symbols. But anyways, yeah. But thanks for that, Trevor. Thanks for being on. And Marianne, those port strikes are purposely done. And I would have to kind of lean towards that thinking myself. It seems like, anyways, remember the strike in Canada on the rail strike? It seems like, remember those ships crashing into bridges? I think there were 7 bridges that were down in the United States, all back to back, just recently. The one in, I think it was Baltimore, which is one of the ports that are closed now due to the strike. It shut down all supplies coming into one of the busiest ports in the United States. Just seems like the supply chain is definitely under attack. If it's coincidence, it's, wow, huge coincidence. But when there's coincidences, you start to go, okay, is that a coincidence or is there something else to that? Good morning, Sudbury. This is Monique, and thanks for being on with a smiley emoji. And Denise, blessings, everyone. Blessings to you as well, Denise. Thanks for being on. Belinda says it's about exposure, drawing out the darkness. Their time is over. Be prepared as much as you can. It's going to be a wild ride. I tend to agree. We talked about this yesterday before we glitched out. I think it was something on my end. I'm not 100% sure. At least my device was affected halfway through the show. Anyways, so I don't know if it was something we were talking about. I don't know if it was just coincidence. But we were talking about some of the things happening in our world, and to be prepared regardless. And just because you have a cozy life where everything is, organized, and it doesn't always have to be that way. Like, war has never really affected us here, but it's affected people around the world in different times, in different places. And they have had to go through things like that. And to think that we're immune from anything like that happening here is, why would you think that? Why would you think it could never happen here? We're seeing signs of our society being deconstructed before our eyes in many, many ways. And we're being told that, we just went through the last 4 years, right? You saw how something can affect your way of life. It doesn't even have to be war. It could be the pandemic that we just went through. You've seen how that affected us. Are we prepared for things like that? Like, what are we doing? Like, if you had to be just stay at your house for a year, could you survive? You know what I mean? Like, are we thinking like this? Can we survive in the bush if we had to? Can we go out and just know what we can eat, know what we can't eat? How vulnerable are we? How self-reliant are you? How self-reliant are you? If you didn't have a car, if you didn't have heating at your house, if you didn't have electricity, if you didn't have a grocery store, if you didn't have clothing, if you didn't have Amazon that you could order from, what would you do? Just, I don't know. It's just a question. So something to think about. As we'll get into some of the news that just took place yesterday that could, very well show that things are going to ramp up in the world, possibly a lot. Debbie, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. And Mike, good morning to you as well. Exclamation point. Good Wednesday morning. Yes, it is. And David, good morning. Take care. Stay safe. Thanks for being on. Notice of a meeting, emergency council meeting, October 2nd. So a joint emergency meeting of the council of the township of Nairn and Hyman and council of the township of Baldwin have been scheduled for today at 2 p.m. So it'll be at the Nairn Community Center, which I used to work out of 1 day a week. You want to look it up on if you don't know where it is, you want to look it up on your GPS. It's easy to find. The purpose of this meeting is to allow the two councils to discuss the information provided from the Ministry of Mines and the Ministry of Transportation and Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission regarding the proposed plan to transport and deposit radioactive, naturally occurring materials to the Agnew Lake tailings management areas and determine the appropriate next steps. So yes, we know that's been going on. And today there's an emergency meeting. So thanks for letting us know that, Denise. So at least anyone listening to this show before that time who are wanting to go, which there are a few people who are regular contributors to the show and regular viewers and listeners, have gone to the last one. So you may want to go to this one as well. Evelyn says, good morning, and good morning to you, Evelyn. Would you be interested in interviewing Kelly Donovan, the author of Police Line? Do not cross. It sure could help her. Yeah, for sure. Have her reach out to me through email. Now, this is the thing. If anyone's in an earshot of this, who ever wants to come on the show, you reach out to me by emailing me at sudburynews@gmail.com, sudburynews@gmail.com, and just say, hey, I am so-and-so. I'd love to be a guest on the show. How does that happen, or when can we do it? It's as easy as that, because I've had people contact me like yourself and say, can you interview this person and then leave it with me? And then I'm then left with the task of going to that person and reaching out, and it just doesn't work with my schedule, because I work full time and I do the show, and I also I'm involved in other things as well. And so it's easier for me if that person themselves reaches out. That way I have their email. I can then just contact them back and give them the link and make a day. And even that sometimes is hard, as certain people know we've been trying to get on the show. Just because it's, I wake up in the morning, I do a little routine, shower, turn on everything, get everything going, do the show. Literally, there's not even a minute in between here and work, and then work full time. And then I work out of town from where my home is as well. And so there's some travel there. And then, I got to spend some time at home too. There's things I got to do. And then, I'm involved in church and in the community, on boards of directors, things like that. And I just finished my master's too, which is great. So it gives me a little bit of time. I also teach a class a week. So, yeah. So anyways, long way of saying have them reach out to me through email, sudburynews@gmail.com. I look forward to that. I look forward to having as many people on the show as possible. And I think it's enriching for our community, enriching for our audience. Miles, hey everyone. Good morning to you, Miles. Here's the latest from Ottawa. Well, there's so much coming out of Ottawa. What is the latest? The feds are paying our dollars to American universities to perpetuate their climate change numbers. To perpetuate their climate change numbers. Okay, well, Miles, thanks for that. And we'll just chalk that up for another. I don't know if you can call that a scandal. It's not. It's just mismanagement of money. And, this kind of activist government that we have. They're taking your money and using it for activist purposes. So the feds are paying our tax dollars to American universities to perpetuate their climate change numbers. So thanks for that, Miles. And it's just, again, another thing. I appreciate that. Letting us know. Hoping people, this is Denise in the local area, attend the meeting today in Nairn at 2 p.m. You don't have to talk. You don't have to speak. Your body has to be there and account for the numbers. It's a force for sure. Just showing up. But again, right? People who work can't go to this emergency meeting. If it was at 5 or 6, possibly. So the numbers are going to be limited just from the time it's being held alone. Okay, so she's a police officer suing the Canadian Police Association in Ontario. That's, I'm more than happy to have her come on, and her story is getting pretty big, but she needs to get the word out more for sure. Anyone who's wrote a book would definitely, the more publicity, the better. And today, the way you get used to go on tour, like, or send out media releases and things and get in the news. Nowadays, you just get on podcasts, and that's how you promote your book. So this would be a perfect example of that. Jerome, good morning, Critical Thinking Sudbury News, folks, with all kinds of great emojis there. Thanks, Jerome. Thanks for being on, Marianne. All universities have been captured to push the narrative. It's sad. Yeah, they are definitely politicized and indoctrinated. Universities are indoctrinated. If you're saying, I don't know what you're talking about. You haven't been to university lately. I just graduated 3 years ago from Laurentian, and they are definitely in the thick of indoctrination for sure. A Marxist kind of religious, it's like a church of Marxism, if you will. If you ever want to know more, I tell little bits and pieces from time to time on the show if you've ever heard me talk about it. That's the first thing they said. The very first words out of their mouth in the first class were, we're going to be talking about Marxism. And you may be wondering why. Well, the reason is because everything we talk to you from here on in will be based on the foundation of Marxism. Right there, right out in the open. And I have videos even of one of my classes where the professor is even kind of saying, wow, we're not really sure why Marxism is taught so much in our universities, but it is. And she wasn't really questioning it, but just kind of called a spade a spade. And one of these days I'll share a little clip from some of those classes that I have. And Lise, good morning. It looks like comments didn't get into the comment there, but I hope you're having a good morning, Lise. Thanks for being on. And Belinda, just like council is looking into chemtrails. Yeah, I don't think they're looking into chemtrails. They have to acknowledge chemtrails first before they can look into them, right? Denise, good morning. All have a wonderful day. Stay safe and healthy. Like and share. Yes, thanks, Denise. Thanks for being on. Hope you're having a great morning. And Marianne, 522 mayors have signed on to the climate initiative. People need to start hitting their municipalities. I appreciate a particular person that she's really active out there in municipalities, and her name just escaped me for some reason, and I don't know why, but it's morning, right? And sometimes things happen. And I'm sure some of you are going to put her name into the comments, but I follow her, and she has a pretty great grassroots movement happening to expose the UN tentacles inside our municipalities, and asking ourselves why. Maggie Braun, that's her name. Anyways, so, and I think she has a hyphenated name too, her last name, but she is very active and very good at exposing what's happening with the UN being in our municipalities and things that we've kind of taken on over the years, and we're very entrenched, and they've really done a good job at getting their agenda inside our agendas. Isaiah, good morning to you. It's the mystery of faith, truly a mystery. Oh, yes, I was talking about blind faith earlier. You are right. And faith is meant to be somewhat, non-tangible, if you will. To have faith in something, but you shouldn't have faith in just things that are, there is something to having blind faith that's not good. You shouldn't just believe everything you hear. There has to be some type of evidence, even if evidence isn't quantified, scientifically proven, if you will. Even science isn't scientifically proven, right? That's the whole idea of science, is to question everything and to continually evolve and understand and know things. So when some people say trust the science, or the science knows everything, or the science is settled, that's a scam, because science questions everything. It never kind of comes to a concrete conclusion, because then that is susceptible to another scientist coming along and challenging that. And that's the great thing about science. Now, faith is evidence of things not seen, but there is evidence there. It's a spiritual or intuitive or psychological experiment that you do to find things out. And faith, you have to trust. So you have to, if you believe in a higher being, you want to know if that higher being actually exists. So it's funny we're talking about this right now, because I thought of this when I woke up this morning. I thought, well, I can't share that on the show. It's not something that I'm going to share on this platform, but I did that experiment when I was 19. I set out and said, I don't have to be commissioned. I don't have to have a job to do this. I don't have to have a reason for doing it other than I want to know. I'm going to set out to find out if God really exists. And it's going to be a personal experiment. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do whatever I can to find out if God exists. And if God does exist, if I can figure that out myself, then I'm going to give my life to God, and I'm going to do whatever God wants me to do. If he's real, or if God exists. I didn't know I didn't know at that time what is God. And so yeah, if there is one, I'm going to dedicate my life to that God. And if there's not, I'm going to party hardy. I'm going to just live loud, maybe live short, and just enjoy and burn out and not fade away. I was just going to party my life away. Because I said, if there's no God, there's no real purpose. There's no meaning. So what? You know what I mean? I'm just going to live for me. But I really, truly, I wasn't doing this because I wanted to do that. I just really wanted to know if this was real or not. And so I was able to, over the course of a very short time, 6 months to a year, determine through my own efforts that there was indeed a God, and there was one God. Because there's a lot of religions out there, and I have respect for everybody, and And you could say there's more than one God in a way. My computer's a God. If you really want to boil it down to the definition of a God, it's something you give your time and attention to all the time. That's a God to you. Your cell phone is somewhat a God, right? So I guess in that respect, there are more than one uh, God, but I've found in my experiment that there's one God, and that's I just share that with you guys. I hope it's not offensive. If it is, I apologize. I don't know why it would be, but it can be to some people. But I appreciate that, and but it's funny. I woke up with that this morning, and then just our conversation organically morphed into it, and then that led to more. It led to knowing more that there was just one path, if you will. Two, there's one path that's set out for us, and we can choose it or not. It's interesting, and I found a lot of peace and a lot of happiness in choosing it. I don't always stay on it because I'm very fallible and I'm very human, and it's not easy to stay on the path that's been laid out to you by a perfect being, but definitely rewarding when I put the effort in. So very, very interesting. So faith, right? So now after I found out that this being is real, I have to trust. Sometimes I have to have faith and trust in the being that they're not going to let me down. They're not going to give me something I can't handle. They're not going to lead me astray and have me in places that I don't feel, that are going to be harmful to me. And I'm going to grow and learn, and I'm going to become somebody way more than I ever thought I could myself, right? So this is the faith. This is now when there's a situation and I have to have trust in this being, in this plan, in this path, then I have to trust it. I have to have faith. So there's something concrete there for me. That's concrete. Now, I may be speaking in terms for someone else who are like, well, that's just hocus pocus, and I can appreciate that. But for me, I know that. And if anyone ever wants to know any more details, and I don't think this is the platform to do it on, I'm more than open to speaking on that, and you can message me personally on that. That's the first time I've really shared that in 2.5 years, right? So this isn't the purpose of me doing this by any means. I'm not on a soapbox. I never will be. And I'm trying to be very respectful to this platform that we have and the radio station and all y'all that are on the show. Marianne says, unfortunately, they won't all part of the plan. So Courtney, good morning, Courtney. Thanks for being on. Good morning, everyone. And yeah, we're going to be getting you on the show shortly. Courtney, looking forward to it. You've been in the news. We shared your story yesterday. We glitched, went off the air, and then on the radio, I shared the story that Sudbury.com did on yourself and Miss Lamoth. So Belinda, thanks for being on. You also said there is no transparency with our municipal government. I don't know, a little more maybe than federal. These are people that live around us, and, we can at least find certain things out because they are local. Lorraine, good morning. Thanks for being on. And looks like a beauty of a fall day. It is a beauty of a fall day today. They're definitely, I'm grateful the weather turned out the way that it has for this fall. So beautiful. Honestly believe the towers are admitting, a frequency that affect people to stay at a level that they won't question or push back. So we're talking about the towers that went up right at the beginning of the pandemic, the 5, towers. So, the new technology to give us faster Wi-Fi, apparently. There's definitely, they can be weaponized, those towers. They've been proven that they can be used to emit frequencies that are harmful to people if someone who had the means used them in that way. We know they have the capabilities to do that. You know, when you drive around, you see these monstrous towers everywhere with all these futuristic looking things on them for communications, looks like, right? And you're going, wow, that looks pretty ominous. Well, they are. Belinda, they will not get a pass, be on the right side of history. Speaking of those few people in the world who definitely don't want the best for everybody. Denise, I've been trying for years to help people with gardens for free and teach the medicines from the forest and the foods we can eat. And I've come to a conclusion that Canadians are lazy. Yeah, I think you're right to a large extent, Courtney. They must. Oh, the towers must not work on you then, for sure. And they don't work on everybody, that's for sure. Marianne, if everyone watched the HOC, at this point, all they are doing is gaslighting people with the non-confidence vote. Oh, House of Commons, yeah. It's a joke. Well, there you go, non-confidence vote. All that's happening now is that the Parti Québécois is going to get all what they want, because they're going to say, you know what, if we don't get what we want, we're going to vote in favor of non-confidence and call an election. So the Liberals are going to give them whatever they want. So same with the NDP. All these other parties that we didn't vote for because Trudeau wants to stay in power, they are getting everything they want. We didn't vote. This is how weird our democracy works. So you have a minority government, a government that barely got in to begin with. It doesn't represent, the majority, especially now because his ratings are so low. The Liberals, federal Liberals, in the polls, ratings are the lowest they've ever been, I think. They'll be happy to even get one seat if they get elected. I mean, if there's an election. So they're in power. And these other parties that got even less votes than them are getting what they want because the Conservatives want to call an election. But the other parties there are like, well, we could vote with the Conservatives and you'll have to have an election and you'll be out of power. But, we'll vote along with you if you give us this and the very things that people didn't want in Canada because they didn't vote these other parties that have these agendas and things that they are promoting. They didn't vote for them. But that's what we're going to get as Canadians because this is the situation we're in. It's really crazy. Marianne, oh, absolutely. EMFs are bad for humans, and animals. It's sick what they are doing. So that's from the towers again. These towers, they do emit frequencies. Your Wi-Fi in your house emits frequencies. Like you ever take a frequency monitor and put it by your Wi-Fi, it'll go nuts. Yes, for sure. Evelyn, have her contact me at sudburynews@gmail.com. And DL, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being on. Municipalities has had emergency plans for years. Yes, they have had emergency plans. Part of their plans don't include food, though. You got to admit that. So let's say our food supply was wiped out. Our municipality does not have a food supply for our citizens, period, right? So there are definite huge flaws in the municipality's emergency plans. But thanks for that. Yes, we do have emergency preparedness. We have a manual. We have protocol. That's if their, valet explodes or something. We have certain things in place, ways to communicate with each other. But let's say there was no food. The food supply ran out. There's no food in the grocery stores. What does the city have in terms of that? I know in Salt Lake City, where I went for 2 years on a mission for my church, they have food there that they would be able to feed the citizens of their community. And in the meantime, what they do is they have volunteers and they have people who donate they have dairies, meat packing plants, cheese packing facilities. They can manufacture canning. They are actually like a food company, but it's all done through donations, volunteers. And in the meantime, what they do is they have, it's part of their welfare program. So someone needs food, instead of like here, you go on welfare. Well, there, or they have food stamps in the United States, but there you don't need them. You go to the grocery store, basically, this volunteer run, volunteer donated funds for this grocery store that was supplied by packing plants and processing plants that were built by the church there. And it's filled with food that people can come to and just have a grocery order. If they have a family of 5, they're told they have a list. It's family of 5, and they can get groceries for a family of 5. And then they're just asked to do some type of service to pay it back, to volunteer. And a lot of them will volunteer in the very plants that made the food that they got the food from. It's about the best organized emergency system that I've ever seen in my life, because it's being used now. It's not just used in times of emergency. Well, people are going through emergencies now individually, right? They lost their job, whatever. So I would love to see something like that in every city, or at least in major cities, spread out abroad. So that way, if something were to happen, the cities are self-sufficient. And in the meantime, they're taking care of their citizens. And people feel dignified when they don't feel like they got a handout. They go and they go in and they're trained how to do a certain thing on a conveyor, and they learn how to do that. Hey, and it's even good for a resume. Yeah, I worked in the processing plant, and I know how to do this, that, and the other. It's really cool. If you haven't seen it, it's something to be seen, and many people can't even believe that it's there. Now I lost my internet connection, so we'll see what happens now with the show. Interesting things happening the last couple days. I guess I'm sharing things I shouldn't be sharing. I have no idea. Whatever. It is what it is. Okay, it looks like we're still fine. And got a bunch of comments here, so we're just going to move on because there's lots of news to be talking about today. And we're just going to run through some of the stories because time is far spent. And it is my fault, and I apologize for that. Yeah, I don't agree with that, Isaiah, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. So lots of comments here. Let's just check in with the Epoch Times headline. So Iran strikes Israel, right? Rosh Hashanah begins today. And that's the Jewish New Year. And going into other significant years and holidays. And good morning, Andrew. Thanks for being on. Appreciate you. But this is interesting. Almost a year after the October 7th attack on Israel, Iran launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles into Israel yesterday. Israel shot down most of the missiles and vowed to retaliate. So this is heating up in the Middle East. It's not going to be good. Virtually the entire nation of 10 million people told to go into their bunkers to seek out safety. And the U.S. also were part of the shooting down of those missiles through some of their warships that were in the area. So, which is crazy. The U.S. are there, so you can't see anything going wrong there, right? And then the Sudbury Star. So we're going from international news, which is huge. I mean, just it's just going to affect everything. And then the port situation with the strike in the United States and on the east coast of Canada, on our large ports, our supply chain is going to be affected. They aren't anywhere near an agreement. Yeah, even a couple days thwarts the supply chain, but this is not good. Even the CEO of Costco chimed in and said, there's going to be shortages happening because of that strike. Now, a little closer to home, 2 teens were charged with vandalism of the Elliott Lake Arena. And the question is, why 2 17-year-old kids wreaked havoc inside the Centennial Arena in Elliott Lake. When they were done, they had caused more than $50,000 in damages to the arena, which has been closed since last year due to structural issues. So in a release, the East Algoma OPP said officers were called on September 27th when contractors noticed the extensive damage inside the arena. So while the game was going on in Sudbury for the Kraft Hockeyville for this new arena or whatever that they're going to be getting, or the upgrades, the $250,000 upgrade they're going to get, these teenagers were inside the arena causing damage. So they said that extensive damage was done inside the arena. A Zoom boom was still running, which had smashed into a large structure post. 7 large commercial fire extinguishers were deployed everywhere. And all food in the canteen cupboards and refrigerator were damaged and thrown on the floor. So again, $50,000 damages in Elliott Lake. And then just recently, Friday, residents in Chelmsford were terrorized. A deranged individual who made his way down Main Street in Chelmsford, peering through the window of a house, breaking in the window of another, and finally breaking into a house where a man was home with his daughter asleep in the bedroom. Greater Sudbury police officers responded around 11 p.m. to a call for service in relation to mischief in a residential area in Chelmsford. Police were informed that the individual had broken in a window in one residence and broken into another residence, causing significant damage to property, and was carrying weapons believed to be knives, the police service said. The man sustained self-inflicted injuries during the course of the incident, police said, but fortunately, no members of the public were hurt. The suspect was located based on a description provided, but continued to be uncooperative with police and was subsequently arrested. Paramedics arrived at the scene, 11:18, and transported the individual to hospital where he currently remains. And good morning, Vin. Good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Better late than never. And from our news aggregate, from Sudbury Stars, the Sudbury Stars newsletter that they have. So if you haven't subscribed to the Sudbury Stars newsletter, great idea to do that. They comes in at 7 a.m. every morning, so you can be informed. And then Sudbury.com has a Good Morning Stories to Start Your Day segment on their website, so you can go there for that. But if you just go to our news aggregator, you get all that anyways. So Sudbury.news. Truth and Reconciliation Day should be a provincial stat holiday, a Northern MPP says. It's always First Nations do their thing to go reconcile, but I think it's important for other Ontarians to have that day off to acknowledge, to reflect, to mourn, to learn the real history of residential schools. One MPP says. So he's Indigenous. He's putting forward the motion to make it a holiday in Ontario. And I agree. I think it is a day that needs to. That way, when you're not having to work, you can go to a ceremony or something to acknowledge, to learn. It's great. What I really appreciate about Indigenous cultures, especially local, is when you go to any kind of ceremony, they have elders there who share teachings. And I love it. They say, "I'm going to share a teaching with you right now," and that's something that I've come to know. And my ears perk up when they say that. "I'm going to share a teaching right now." And every time they've said that, and every time they've shared something, I've learned something that's elevated my spirit in some way, shape, or form, or made me think of something I wouldn't normally have thought of. Spiritually uplifting. I learned something. I was, you know, I had a moment of clarity, if you will, from their teachings. And even just hearing my manager at work the other day, although not Indigenous, performed a smudging in the beginning of our day and said, "I'm going to share a teaching right now." And I was like, "Hey, ever cool." Because he's been around and he's worked with Indigenous people for a long time. He's learning the language. He knows a lot, and he's putting forth a lot of effort. And I appreciate that. Anyways, and he taught us about this, the story about the orange shirt. And where was I not knowing the story of the orange shirt? So he shared that with us. And I was like, wow, okay, well, all this time I didn't know where it came from. I don't know why. It is what it is. And then in sharing the smudging, or what the smudge, one of the aspects of smudging is, I made a connection to my own beliefs and my own spiritual journey kind of thing, and how we connected with that. And so they will burn various different things. You can burn tobacco, you can burn sweetgrass, you can burn sage in a smudging. And it's an opportunity to reflect. And as you kind of wash yourself with the smoke, I know it's an interesting concept, but I know the smoke would symbolize various things, but you basically take the smoke and you put it over parts of your body. And as you do that, you kind of have a prayer that your head will be used what it's made for, your eyes that you'll see clearly, your nose that will function properly, your mouth that you'll use your mouth for positive things. And every part of your body is meant for something. And I appreciated that. And it made a connection for me, something that I'm used to in my spiritual journey doing. And I was like, oh, I know where that came from. That is really cool. So it made a huge connection to me. So anyways, yeah, it would be great to have a day, a holiday, not that we can go surfing like many members of Parliament went surfing that they had the day off. And so not for a day for that, but a day of reflection would be great. Thanks for being with us, everyone. It's all the time we have. I know there's many things that are going on in our world, and it could seem confusing, but the more we try to unpack things and the more we converse with like-minded people and try and make sense of things, we can at least do it as a community, and you don't have to feel alone. Life can be complicated sometimes, and it seems like it's getting more and more complicated. But let us reach higher, reach out and reach higher, and know that there are other people that are going through this with us. We're not the only ones. You're never alone. So thanks everyone for being with us, and we will join you. We'll be back on the air, same time, same place, God willing, on the same platforms tomorrow on Thursday. So from a different studio, but it is what it is. Thanks for being with us today. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily. We'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.